Namaste and welcome to yet another edition of The Right Perspective. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on India completing 75 years of its independence started and set a vision document in place for our Azadi Ka Amrit Kal. That means 25 years from here on until 2047. Where are we going to be as a nation? He talked about 5 important aspects as prana and then said, let's make it a pran also. When I say prana, you need to imbibe it as part of your conscience as a country, as its citizenry. The first thing that he talked about, that we need to think of ourselves and we need to become Viksit Bharat. So by 2047, we are no longer thinking of ourselves or behaving or being a developing nation. We will be developed nation. For that, we have to take some big sankalpas or we have to make some big pledges, tasks that we have to undertake. He also talked about the fact that we need to break ourselves from all sorts of gulami or servility. We need to be ourselves because we are Bharat and Bharatiya. Shed all aspects of colonialism, coloniality, and of course gulami, servility. He also talked about ekta and ekjutta, that we need to work together collectively as a country. He spoke about our virasat, preserving it, learning from it, and finding our roots so that we stay rooted. We don't drift away. We are not molded by other thought processes because we are sure of our own. So that's where heritage comes forth. And more importantly, and I think the fifth one he underlined, is Nagrik Kartavya. That is the commitment of each person, duty, dharma, from the aspect of your duty towards the country. So not just one nation, one identity and working together, unified in unity, but more importantly, understanding our Nagrik Kartavya. Now, is this possible? That's the question. We have got students from Amity University. Thank you, welcome. So we've recognized the audience and they're going to be asking the questions to people who have written about it, spoken about it, and who have been through the entire process of our country growing, developing, and of course, changing its posture. So we have right at the center, Ajay Duaji, former Secretary, Ministry of Industry and Commerce. Ajay ji, namaste. I have Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, Distinguished Fellow of the Vivekananda Foundation. Namaste, sir. Thank you very much, Jai Hind. And Abhijit Iyer Mitra. He's a good friend, but he's also Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, writes regularly and contributes with us on news18.com and on First Post. So thank you very much. So big round of applause for our guest. So let me start with you, Ajay ji. This 5 Panch Pran or Panch Pran, possible hai? Kar sakte hain as a country hum?
Certainly.
Which is, where do we have to start? Or do we have to do all of it together?
Let me put it this way. The Prime Minister is a very good leader. And on an occasion like this, he demonstrated his leadership qualities to the hilt, if I might say. That is, set the country high, ambitious goals. Something which the country and its citizens have to strive for. They may not be easy to achieve, but they are not impossible either. So in those terms, if you look at, he's made the premises are twofold. One, we've made progress in the last 75 years, but going forward, it has to be much faster, at a much faster pace and much more comprehensive than we've done it in the past.
General Sahab?
Yeah, thank you, Anand, for inviting. Now, the part is that there is immense amount of depth in these 5 pledges that the Prime Minister gave. He brought us to aspirational society, which is a great thing. We've been talking about our India is an aspirational society. Everybody wants to rise higher and higher. But then, having said that, he also took us back to our heritage, which is also there. So he says, okay, there is modernity, there is change, which is imperative in next 25 years, but there is also a heritage which is important. So while getting modern, don't forget your heritage. So I find a very great balance brought about into these 5 pledges that the Prime Minister stated so. And also, when he says leave the legacy, gulami, legacies. The first time the Prime Minister spoken about legacy, he said, earlier also, when he spoke in Kevadia last year, he said, okay, let's jettison legacy, think modern. I think there is great amount of analysis required on each one of these issues. Of all this while, as you are aware, Anand, we keep analyzing regularly Xi Jinping's dream, Chinese dream 2049, and he said moderately well-off society 2035. So everybody else's dreams we keep analyzing. Let's start talking our own dreams, yeah? What does aspirational society mean?
And we are far getting uprooted from what was traditionally ours. We are not thinking as Indians or individuals. We are getting brainwashed.
So thanks for having me on, Anand. I would say that, India and India's youth especially are a lot less westernized than a lot of the other youth you come across in, say, China or Japan. Despite having very old histories of their own, or Korea even, they have very old histories, many thousand-year-old civilizations and things like that. They tend to ape the West far, far more blindly than we do. For example, the normal political dress in Korea or Japan or China is the suit. Who in India will ever wear a suit? If you want to have any chance of getting elected, I don't think you may get into the Rajya Sabha wearing a suit. But if you want to win a Lok Sabha seat or an assembly seat, best of luck trying to campaign in a three-piece suit and trying to win your election. I think that's why Suit Boot Ki Sarkar came about because of that. So I think even in our other outlook, we tend to be much more Indian. So that, I think, is the least of my concerns. My big concern is we hear a lot of these statements. We don't hear the micro detail, the ways and the means of getting there. So for me, the three big ways of getting there would be regulation, land, and energy. Now, regulation is still, highly contested. You have these retrospective taxes, and then only when international arbitration goes against you, even then you don't change retrospective taxes. It's only when the government starts seizing Indian national property abroad that, things happen. Number two, energy. We still lose. Energy is required for industrialization. We still lose $16 to $20 billion every year in stolen energy.
Yeah.
We've seen nothing over the last 8 years to fix that. And that is 4 to 5 nuclear reactors that you could have built every year with that money lost.
Let me ask you, how many of you believe we can do it?
I believe we can do it.
You believe we can do it?
Yes, I believe we can do it, but for that, we as an individual will have to take a single pledge. Yes, we want to do it. We see ourselves after 100 years that we are a developed country, and we will have to do it.
But how will we do it? So let's talk about, I'm not even going for the first four, the last part of Nagrik Kartavya. What do you mean by citizens' duty?
It's a moral duty. We are a part of India. We are Indians, and we should respect our culture. We should respect our tradition. We should be proud of it. We should not be ashamed of it. I can still see stereotypical thought processes. Like if girls wear suits, so Western girl would say like, oh, isn't a suit pehna hai? She is of old school thoughts. This should not be the thought process.
So you're saying, so somewhere you have talked about a thought process. I'm saying basic citizens' duty is also like what? Follow traffic rules, you don't need to be fined for it. Okay, park your car in the right way. Be conscious of your carbon footprint. Is it possible for us? The Prime Minister talked about women. This whole section is 50% of the audience plus is women. I'm so happy about it. But ladies, tell me, where do you stand? Is it possible?
Yeah, I think it is possible.
हाँ, पर क्या करना होगा उसके लिए?
सबसे पहले बात तो हमें यूनिटी को लाना पड़ेगा हमारे अंदर.
हाँ.
और जो गैदरिंग इससे ला सकता है, हम इससे अपना जो मैसेज है वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा फैला पाएंगे. और मुझे लगता है कि जो लोग सोशल मीडिया में अपनी सिर्फ सेल्फी या फिर इन्फ्लुएंसिंग फोटोज़ वगैरह जो डालते हैं, मुझे लगता है कि एक पोस्ट इन सब के बारे में भी डालना चाहिए कि हाँ ये सब का किया जा सकता है. इससे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा ऑडियंस अट्रैक्ट होंगे.
क्या बात है. एक पोस्ट देश के लिए भी कर लो, है ना? गुड सजेशन, अभिजीत. हाँ, anybody else? Any questions you would like to ask them before I ask? Ma'am, you agree with our panelists so far? Huh? What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge?
I feel the biggest challenge is equality here. The difference, like he talked about, the difference between men and women is just physical. But that comes to mentality too. Like the people's mentality these days is like women should not go for some things. Like the equality is still somewhere not there.
Equality or also the gap between haves and have-nots? Do you believe that is going to be perhaps one of our biggest challenges, Ajay ji?
Certainly. I think the young lady talked about gender equality. Certainly, I think the time is gone when we should be thinking of a lady can do this, a man can do this. You've got, in fact, an example in India, we have more lady pilots doing civil aviation than anywhere else in the world, not even in the United States. They resolved it. It was facilitated. They're doing a very fine job. The flights leave more on time with women as pilot commanders than when men were there saying, a friend of mine is coming, so let me wait. Nothing of that kind happens now. They fly Indigo, which has the maximum one, if I might name, flies out punctually. Having said that, the question of equality, which you talked about, other one. I think it's an equality. What I look to is first an equality amongst all citizens. I'm not just talking of economic equality. We have to, and I emphasize it, this caste system in India, where people are put at unequal pedestals or levels, that must go. Our attempt in the next 25 years, having achieved a base, has to be that every citizen, irrespective of his birth, where he was born, is an equal person. If you keep on making distinction that such and such person is only fit for menial purpose, menial work because his so-called lineage, or they'd been doing that, you are not making the maximum use of that person. Or if this person was born in a high caste, so he's the only literate person. At one time, literacy was only in that echelon of the society. Again, you're expecting far too much. So I would emphasize what Google only yesterday, as a part of its employees' mandate, emphasize removal of caste in the United States. It might be color there also. But even there, they said if anybody is practicing, inequalities or discrimination in terms of religion, gender, or others, that person is not required, may not be retained there. So that's number one which I want. Second is in terms of if there is a discrimination, to be exercised, and I think sometime or the other at the end of these 25 years, we might need to revisit all the reservations which were initially made for only 10 years.
General Sahab?
I think one is a very major issue is this digitization will permit us. I'll take that issue which you said about children wanting to go outside. Now, if we have the capacities in the nation to absorb it, to absorb ourselves, and our students who are studying well and doing well, then there is no need of going outside. If there are, finally, wherever you go to Canada or to Australia, which are the most common countries, you are a second-rate citizen. You carry your PR along with you. You are a second-rate citizen. You behave like a second-rate citizen. Why do people last for so long as a second-rate citizens? Where they are looked upon like that? We have plenty of Indians who have risen up to a CEO level. But you take a percentage of the crores that we have outside who have risen up, not much. Finally, West also decides that they will, perpetuate their own people before they perpetuate anybody else. So just because you have Nadella or you have 20 don't make 20 a small percentage of the number of people working outside your own country. I think, of course, I speak as a man in uniform, erstwhile man in uniform. I think there is much to be achieved in India. You see the boards outside Amity, so-and-so got 1 crore package. I mean, I don't know whether Amity gives 1 crore package or making a line about it. But there are boards outside. I stay on the road. All the universities are located here or in Sonipat. Every board smacks of 1 crore, 50 lakh. People are doing well. It's just that it has to be caught on. You have to say, I will achieve it in my own country, the same thing which I think outside. The aspiration, that's why I take...
These people who you talked about, who have done well, and I wish them well, they have given up their Indian identity. They have reached to that level because they are no longer Indian citizens. Whether they are giving back to India in their own way it's their own personal thing. But I'm just saying, when you give up your Indian identity because you want to grow, that means that that identity doesn't matter to you. You have chosen your own personal growth. You have made another place there your native home. So now your loyalty is to that particular country, because that country is your Karma Bhumi, and your next generations are not going to be rooted to India. No.
If we grow at the rate we are growing in comparison across the world, I think there are great amount of opportunities coming up in India. And I'm saying, you take any one of these, from Bloomberg to Deloitte or whoever is writing, say you can't deny 5%. No country is reaching this level. Even 5%, we can say we have the capacities to reach 8% a year, and we ought to do it. But the question is, even if we go down to 5 to 6%, we are having the growth pattern. United States has recession twice. Look at the inflation across in United States and UK today. I read an article the other day, £55,000 means nothing in UK.
Correct.
You know, the amount 40% tax goes. Look at the taxation in Canada. So the fact of the matter is, dur ke dhol sunaune. You know, everybody thinks it's hunky dory out there. It's not so easy.
But the also thing is कि लड़ झगड़ के वहाँ चले तो गए, अब वापस क्या मुँह लेके आएंगे? तो वहीं टिके रहते हैं. तो ये भी reality है.
हमारी गर्मी है, parents की गर्मी. The warmth of meeting your parents back home and your kith and kin. That, of course, stands out. That is what Prime Minister said, heritage of India.
No, that is true, sir, but that is all not for coming back and doing something for the country. They come back once in 2 or 3 years just to show all is well. But वहाँ खुद के कपड़े धो रहे हैं, खुद की गाड़ी साफ कर रहे हैं, एक छोटे मैच बॉक्स में रह रहे हैं, यहाँ बड़ी कोठी हुआ करती थी वहाँ. But you can't come out and accept that. But the reality is, I'm going back to the mentality. I'm not going about the choice. I'm going about the mentality which gets them to believe somewhere that there is not much here in this country. Beside the fact that we are a 4% landmass which is shouldering 20% of the world's population, we're still growing at 5%. So there is something that's working, right? So if more people start working here, it should work. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, how difficult or easy is it to bridge this?
So I see the root of this lying in two different places, and this is where, you know, when Modi says gulami, it's that mental gulami. But there is one is the narrative that the West spins for you, that, you know, everything is hunky-dory and lovely and all of that. I bet you, for most of you going to New York, you know, the chances of you getting shot on the streets out there are much higher than they are ever going to be in Delhi.
Yeah.
So,
not even Delhi, Mau.
Yeah.
Even in Mau, you will not get shot. The probability of getting shot in New York is greater.
Yeah.
The rape, New York, per capita rape rates far, far higher than Delhi. But Delhi is headlined as the rape capital of the world. So there's some realities, yeah.
And mind you, the second highest rapes in the world is in Sweden. Alleged socialist paradise and things like that. So, you know, these things are, it's this very lovely story that they've created for you. For me, see, there's two things, the standard of living and the ease of living. Fine, you earn a lot, but remember, you get the same equivalent of your lifestyle here that you're going to get there. So the standard of living issue is a relative, which I came back from Australia after spending 12 years there because I needed a driver. I needed somebody to clean my house. I'm fat. I'm proud of it. I can't do physical work. I need somebody to do it for me. And so I would say my standard of living here is better. Now, the question is the ease of living. If you want to go to a hospital, hamare ko sifarish chahiye. Okay. If you want to drive somewhere, you know, there's this very stupid rule in Delhi that if you hit a cycle with your car, the bigger vehicle is always at fault. It doesn't matter that the cycle came from where and did what. So, you know, these are things that ease of living. This is a very easy thing to solve. You know, it's about making your society a society of rules and laws, which is one of the easiest things to do. Getting back to education. I think education, the problem is it's over-regulated, and it's a very, it's not a market where market dynamics are allowed to apply. It's a very controlled, corrupt sector as such. If you want to, I will give you a very simple way to solve education in this country. You see to it that anybody who is a government servant or wants to join parliament or a legislative assembly or anything like that, they have to send their kids to government schools and government colleges. You see how quickly the standard of education improves. It will be literally like that. It will be a miracle. And therein lies the problem. Nobody wants to improve things out here because they can just send their kids abroad. You tell me, what does Stanford or Harvard teach you? Do the laws of gravity change out there? Harvard physics school mein ya MIT physics school mein, do Newton's 3 laws no longer apply? Does E equal to mc square only apply there and it doesn't apply here? So what exactly are they teaching you out there? It's the same thing. The same syllabus can be brought out here as well. It's a simple question of teaching methods. And once you pass that burden on to the political class, that tum bhi bhugto jo tum dusre logon ko bhugta rahe ho, that is when the change starts happening. So there's a need for, I would slightly disagree with General Saab here, not of equality but of equity.
Yes, sir.
I might just add,
Ji.
without now continuing this discussion on Harvard and Stanford's, I might have a slightly different opinion on whether they add any value or not. I am coming to the first question which you asked is why do our students go or youngsters go abroad, and if they go, why don't they come back? I think once they've been outside India, and I confess both my children went out to study and both work outside, and so the feedback is almost 10 times a day with the WhatsApp and whatnot, what's happening on their side. It is the effort which they put in to get a certain amount of satisfaction. Satisfaction at work, satisfaction being able to achieve something continues to be much higher than it's happening in India. For a simple thing, my son left school and went went to do a 4-year BA, and it's now been 14 years that he's been there. The reason being, he says, Dad, if I come back here, I'm not sure if I would be able to, a point was made about access to a hospital service. He says that the whole system here is that I would have to get anything done, I'll have to pass on some sleaze money.
No, but that's a perception, sir.
No, it might be perception, but it is also based on facts. After all, his friends are all here, school friends, that's what he comes back to, meet, apart from the family and other things. That the things we need to be moving to a society at whatever level we might be, that things get done and get done without any hitch. So the processes and the word.
So the greasing of palms, the sifarish, this entire
living.
system,
No,
ease of living.
Ease of living, and very rightly what Prime Minister has also been talking about, and Mr. Mitra talked about it, that ease of living here has to be addressed in the going forward. Not just ease of doing business, but that would get back a lot of people. It's not saying that the salaries here are lower, because one, they do know that the living style here, whatever they might be earning there, the Indian one cannot match it. That there, lot of them, and it was rightly said, that they are not regarded as the first class
like I said,
citizens.
certain countries, like I was in Australia, and what they said is that most of them come for medical care. They come to Malaysia and to Indonesia because for that entire district, for entire township, there was just one specialty eye care hospital.
Absolutely.
So and it was prohibitively expensive. So they were actually saying, get a direct visa to Delhi because we can come and see. The Prime Minister talks about medical tourism because they believe that medical care is cheaper and it's much better. Quality of medical care is better. But what you are, but what you are alluding to is also a Nagrik Kartavya or a collective mentality, because a lot of us tend to say that tu janta hai mera baap kaun hai kind of attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, main isko phone lagaunga to hi mera kaam hoga. So this attitude, if it is shelved and you say aap kisi ko bhi phone lagao, aapka kaam tabhi hoga jab aapka number aayega. Sir, I have to wind up this discussion. We have overshot time. Big round of applause to all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.